Could you just tell us a bit about what your life was like before you got into the darkness and then emerged from it, please?
Well, I grew up in the Baptist church. My dad had me and my brother in the Baptist church from diapers. And, just to skip over some of the Satanism, though, uh, for right now, when I was about 15 years old, every sermon was about money, about giving money to the Baptist church. And, it was by the time I was 15, I had heard, I don't know how many sermons. I've been there since diapers, and it's 52 sermons a year, times 15 years. I mean, that's quite a few to hear. And every one of them was about giving money to the Baptist church. Let me give you an example. Jesus wept because he saw the future state of the Baptist church, and we didn't donate enough money. And I told my dad, if they bring up money in one more sermon, don't bother about coming to pick me up. I'll just walk home because I'm tired of that. And he's like, what, why would you leave? And I said, because that entire Bible can't be, every verse cannot be about donating money to the Baptist church. But that's what I'm tired of hearing. Every sermon, no matter what the Bible verse is, it could be Old Testament, New Testament, the book of Revelation, it could be Genesis. It's about donating money to the Baptist church. So me and my brother go to the sermon, and he says something else about money. And see, the thing is, in our town, it's a small town, and there's a radio station that covers the Baptist church service. And they record it and they put it, it's live on the radio. So it's a country music station, and my parents would tune into that. So they would listen to it every week. So they knew what I was saying was true. And I came home, and my mom said, my mother said, your father is really mad at you. I said, what's he mad at me for? I didn't make the Baptist preacher talk about money. And he could have called the Baptist preacher during the week. He had 7 days. He could have said, if you talk about money, my son will leave. Don't do it for this one Sunday. If he had gone one Sunday without saying it, the next Sunday I would have been back at the Baptist church again, because he went 1 week without saying it. But my dad didn't call him and say that. So I ended up coming home. And then my dad comes outside, all kind of mad. And he's like, you're the most irresponsible person I've ever met. I said, I'm the irresponsible one? You could have called the Baptist preacher and told him not to talk about donating money to the Baptist church. He could have said it. He could have changed his message. But none of that stuff happened. How am I the irresponsible one? 15 years of hearing about donating money to the Baptist church, I'm done. And I said, I've attended other Baptist church services, and they have the offertory, but they don't spend every sermon talking about donating money to the Baptist church. So why do we? So that was the last time I attended the Baptist church. I was 15 and never attended, I never went back. So when I was growing up, I had this burning desire, because I had seen horror movies, stuff on TV though. I didn't go to theaters to watch horror movies, but and a lot of horror movies from like the 50s or 60s. So things like The Blob or Creature from the Black Lagoon. I loved horror movies, and then there was a lot of stuff that included magic. And then at that time we had what was his name? Not David Copperfield. That was later. But there was another guy that practiced magic, and it was all sleight of hand.
Houdini. Yes. Houdini, was it?
Well, Houdini was dead by the time I came along.
Okay.
It was, but yeah, I was very fascinated with Houdini as well. And I can't remember this guy's name, but he was very much just into sleight of hand. And I asked my Baptist preacher and my parents, is magic real? But I mean, I'm reading comic books and there's Doctor Strange in comic books, and there's other people that practice magic, and there's cartoons about magic. There's movies that have magic. There's even martial arts movies that have people that can levitate. So I'm like, oh, Doug Henning, that was the guy's name. So I just have a burning desire to find out if magic is real. Because if it is, I'm going to learn magic. And if it's not, I'm just going to give up on it. And why would I waste my time? But my Baptist preacher and my parents said, magic is fake. It's false. That's nothing you can really do. Now, as a sidebar here, in the Bible, like in the Ten Commandments, for example, it says, thou shalt not steal. Now, it only says that one time, but it says it. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not lie. Now, all of those seem like they're very important, but God doesn't spend a lot of time telling people not to lie. He says it in the Ten Commandments. So he says it one time. And all those things, they do seem very important, and I appreciate him telling me not to do them. But if it was impossible to tell a lie, thou shalt not lie wouldn't be in the Ten Commandments. If you could not steal, thou shalt not steal would not be in there either. If it was impossible to murder somebody, thou shalt not kill would not be in the Ten Commandments. So, we don't have a speed limit sign that says, don't go 700 miles an hour, because it's impossible to do that. Now, we do have speed limit 55, speed limit 60. In Montana, they have speed limit 80. And those are all nice, but nobody says above that, because we can't go 700 miles an hour. So if God's going to tell you not to do something, then you can do it. And in the Bible, there's 33 verses where God tells you not to do magical things. Why would he warn you against magical things 33 times if it's impossible to do it? I had somebody about 5 years ago say they would give me $10,000 cash if I could prove magic was real. So I invited them to my house, and I had my friend bring out the Bible, and I had him look up all 33 verses. And I said, if magic was impossible to do, God wouldn't warn you 33 times not to do it. That was 5 years ago. I am still waiting for my $10,000.
Uri Geller, some people have said, might be the name you were looking for.
That's another good guess, but it was Doug Henning. Doug Henning was probably only big in the United States. Uri Geller was famous all around the world, as was Houdini.
Indeed. Okay, so you said then, you rejected all of this money that was being called for in that church. What direction did that send you in next then, once you rejected that?
Well, when I was 15, I'd been a Satanist for a few years at that point. So
how did you begin that? Yeah.
Going back, I was 10 years old. I was in the 5th grade. And on the very first day of school, this kid came up to me and he said, meet me in the bathroom at the first break. And the first break is at 10:20. And you get 15 minutes, and you can go outside and play. You can chat with your friends. You can hang around in the school. You can read a book. You can do anything except leave the campus. So, and we didn't hear warnings about if somebody says, meet me in the bathroom, don't go. We didn't hear anything like that. We're a bunch of innocent kids. This is 1976. So meet me in the bathroom at the first break. 10:20, I walk in the bathroom. It's the men's bathroom. And this is a brand new school. It's a brand new building. The bathrooms are huge. And there's about 49 other kids in the bathroom, boys and girls in the same bathroom. We've all been told, meet me in the bathroom at the first break. When we get in there, this guy says, okay, now we're going to turn out the lights. And we're like, how are you going to do that? Because at that time, these bathrooms had a special device to turn off the lights, and you had to stick in a special key that only teachers had. And some genius child figured out that if you unfolded a paperclip and stuck it in there, you could turn out the light. So we're going to turn out the lights, and we're going to chant a phrase a certain number of times. And if you do it right, the spirit of a burn victim will show up in the mirror. None of us are believing this. You know, it's like, so I'm just going to chant something about Bloody Mary a few times, and I'm going to see the spirit of a burn victim. Okay. Yeah, this is believable. So first thing that happens, they turn out the lights, and some of these kids in here, we're all 10 years old. Some of the kids are not used to having the lights turned off. So they're getting a little apprehensive. And he's like, come on, come on. It's just us in the bathroom. Now we're just going to chant this phrase a certain number of times, and let's see what happens. I'm thinking nothing's going to happen. So, or maybe somebody's going to jump out of a stall and scream and scare everybody. Whatever. So we chant it. All of a sudden, this demonic face, but I don't realize it's demonic. It looks like the spirit of a burn victim. The upper part of its mouth is melted, and it stretches down to the bottom part of its lips, and you can see its face is pulled back in a grimace, and has very sharp teeth in its mouth. But to me, as a child, I believed in the law of bulldogs. You may not know that law. Bulldogs are one of the ugliest dogs there is, but most of them are super friendly. So if, you know, a bulldog comes up to you, there's no reason to run away from it. It's most likely just wants to be petted. It can't help how it looks. It was born with that face. It's not a bad dog. It just wants to be petted and loved like all the other dogs. And some people fear it because it looks ugly. So this person, if they died in a fire, obviously their skin is dark black and shiny, and their face looks like it melted. Well, if I died in a fire, my face might have melted too. So I'm thinking, but I was, like I said, I was told it was a game. It's not really a game, it's a spell. So you need a spell. To make a spell work, you need intention, repetition, and demonic presence. So you've got the people that have watched Harry Potter and read Harry Potter spells and tried to make them come true, and they say they don't work. Well, praise God, it didn't work. That meant there wasn't a demon present. Because I've also talked to people that say they've tried them and they do work. Actually, since we're on the subject of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling's a few years ago put a message on her personal website that said every time she deposited $1 billion Harry Potter check, she felt guilty because she was lying to the people. She believed that the Wiccan Church is the one true church. Gaia is the person they worship, and that she intentionally manipulated the minds of young people to believe magic was real so that young people would join the Wiccan movement, because most of the Wiccans are old and starting to die off. She also admitted on a BBC interview on Christmas Day 2019 that Harry Potter is satanic. It's difficult to find now, and it's in two places. There's an actual recording where it's just her and the guy John that's interviewing her, but there's another one that's on like a talk show, and when it's played, the audience laughs. The original version, there's no audience laughing. So anyway, I'm looking at this face. The 49 kids that were in there with me ran out of the bathroom screaming. I stayed in there because I thought, this is the most awesome thing ever. I said this phrase a certain number of times, and I saw the face. And now that it's there, it can see that I made it. I'm the one that conjured this face up. Now, I don't know what this person is. I don't know if it is.
Oops. This is getting really, here we go.
Okay, so what happens is you're on my phone, and I get a lot of phone calls. So when I get a phone call, it's going to go blank and I get a thing and you may not be able to hear me.
That's okay. Keep
All
going.
right. So remember that at 10 years old, you're not the sharpest tack. So when I see this scary face in the mirror, I have not tapped into a castle 3,000 miles away. I have not even tapped into the room behind the mirror. If I'm seeing the demon in the mirror, he's standing next to me. But I'm not smart enough to pick up on that. Then eventually, the school sent notes home, and our parents had to sign them and give them back that said, if your child is caught playing this game at school, they'll be suspended for 3 days. And I brought my note home to my dad in the den. And usually when I give my dad a note, he takes it, signs it, and throws it back at me. He doesn't care what it says. He just figures, well, it's something else I have to sign, whatever. But today, when I took him the note, he reads it. And I was like, oh boy. He reads it. And then, my dad had been a U.S. Marine. So in his usual loving tone, he asked me, have you been playing this game? And being terrified of my dad as I was, I told him the 100% truth. No. So that I wouldn't get caught at school and spend 3 glorious days with my dad, I started playing the game at home. Because whenever I played at school, the face always showed up. So I started playing it at home. What could the danger be in that? And every time I played, the demonic face showed up. Now, remember when I played it at school, it was like once a day. But now that I can do it at home, I'm doing it 25 to 50 times a day, as much as I can, because every time I do it, the face shows up. Then I turn out the lights, close the door, open the door back up, turn on the lights, do it again. And it keeps happening. Every time I do it, the face shows up. And I'm having a great time. Eventually, it almost feels like this is one of my friends. I mean, I can't really talk to him. He doesn't talk back. He doesn't seem to want to hurt me or do anything, but he always shows up. I've got friends that I call that aren't home, or friends that I try and make, arrangements to hang out with, and I can't. But this guy is reliable. And then I'm also playing Dungeons and Dragons at this time. All the older kids in my town play it. I like it. It's a math-based game. I'm a little math geek. So this sounds like a fun game to me. I'm always the wizard or the sorcerer in the game. Whenever I roll for anything else, like if I'm rolling to cross a chasm on a rope, I'm going to score between 1 and 14. So I might make it and I might die. But every time I do a magic spell in the game, I score a 15 to a 20. So my magic spell always works. Sometimes it works great. Sometimes it barely works. But it always works. And it doesn't occur to me that it's the magic itself. That's why I'm doing so well. I just assumed I roll really good for some reason when I'm practicing magic. And it's not real magic. I mean, it's like I'm doing a magic spell for light. Let's roll the die and see what I get. And I rolled an 18. My light's pretty bright. That's pretty good. But then, I have to roll to do something else that's not magical related, and then I die. It's like I should have kept doing magic. So I'm doing that, and then eventually, still 10 years old, and I start thinking, what if I did a magic spell in real life? Would it work in real life? Now, my Baptist preacher has told me no. My parents have told me no. All my friends have told me no. And I'm thinking, but what if I did a magic spell and it really worked? Knowledge is power. I would know something that they don't know. And that would be so awesome. My main intention was Superman can fly, but flying is levitation. What if I could learn magic and I could levitate my way to school and I would